What's up, guys? It's Steven here from Powell's Power Ups. Good morning. I got a lightsaber for sale. This is an SP Sabers Darkness V3 lightsaber installed with a Proffieboard. Fully set up, fully ready to go. So if you're interested in buying this lightsaber, or maybe you've already purchased it, either way, this is the full overview video. I'm going to go over everything about this lightsaber, even how to properly handle it, what to do and what not to do. So let's get right into it. Here is the box. We got the Kylo Ren lightsaber there on the front, Darkness V3 on the side, again Darkness V3 pretty much all over the box. On the bottom here we have SP Sabers logo, and on the top there we have Phoenix props. So you can take the sleeve off, and we have another silhouette of the Kylo Ren lightsaber with the cool red wire. We got the SP Sabers Prestige Edition sticker down here on the bottom. And we'll take off the lid of the box. It's kind of like an iPhone box. So you got some paperwork on top here. This paperwork is the font, the sound font configuration and layout. You have pretty much every Kylo Ren lightsaber font you could want from every different movie, with all the different ignitions and all the different hums. And so it's all laid out there for you, so with that, as you're cycling through fonts, you can figure out which one you're on because it lists the font sounds. Also, starting at the bottom of the page and the next several pages are all of the operation instructions on how to operate the lightsaber. Take your time when you're going through this and read the instructions very closely, because the buttons aren't the only thing that matters. The orientation of the saber, whether you're pointed up or down, and a few other different things matter as well. So if you buy this lightsaber and you're operating it, go slow, read those instructions. So here's the lightsaber. We'll go over what's on the left first. Here on the left side you have your charger. This is your plug-in wall charger and your USB cable. Okay, this is for charging your battery, which I'll show you is in this case right here separate. This is a really fancy Nightcore 5000 milliamp hour 21700, actually I'm sorry, a NL2150 HPR. This is a lithium ion battery that is USB-C chargeable. So that's what this cord comes from. There's actually a little LED light that comes on inside of the top of the battery here. It's red when it's charging and it'll turn green once the battery is fully charged. So really, you don't even have to take this out of the lightsaber. You are able to, but you can just leave it in there and plug into it and let it charge like that. So it comes in this nice little case to keep it in, since it didn't fit in the box. You also have here an SP Sabers official, the authentic original plaque. I'm not going to take it out of the bubble wrap, but this is the plaque that says, you know, Darkness V3 on it, and it has the number. This is the number 69 lightsaber. So there's that. Then you got a little Ziploc baggie here with your Allen wrenches. The bigger one is for the button head screws to assemble and disassemble the hilt, and the smaller silver one is for all of your blade retention screws for the main and the sides. Here are the side blades that come with this lightsaber. These are 3D printed clear plastic. These were made and designed by Shadow Foil Props, and then I've installed NeoPixel LEDs inside of them. So these are the side blades that come with the lightsaber. So these are not flexible like the ones I make, so be careful with these. These are susceptible to breaking, they're susceptible to cracking, to shattering. These are not super not as durable, but they are, I mean, they're pretty strong. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I would definitely never ever recommend dueling or playing with any of this stuff. You also get, I'll show you later when I put it in, but you also get a 36-inch long built by me NeoPixel lightsaber. It has an unstable TPU printed sleeve on the base of it, just to give it some unstable look and some flair. And then you also have here like just a little dust cover that goes over the cap. Kind of protects your PCB on the bottom there. So I'm gonna set that aside. And then now, without further ado, we can look at the lightsaber itself. So this one I bought secondhand off of a gentleman on on the Facebook crossguard group who was selling his. It didn't have a really great paint job, so I actually stripped it down and totally repainted it all myself, and I even did the heat staining on the emitters. So it looks really awesome now. It's a very clean finish. I didn't do a whole lot of weathering. The belt clip was kind of already weathered. It looked pretty good, so I left it alone. I did the red anodizing on the pommel. So it's very clean look, all black. The engines were originally weathered by SP Sabers, the engine cores, the upper engine core there, which I thought looked good, so I left them alone. Almost like a rustic copper gold weathering on the engines. Here's the emitters up close. So we got the black fading into that gold color into the blue tips. It's very subtle. It's not super crazy. This is just a clean looking lightsaber. Blue wires are glued in place there. They won't move. Your red wire for taking apart the hilt comes apart here. So this part of the red wire is all glued in place. It won't move. The paint job that I did on this one, it has a black primer, but then on top of the black primer, I did some copper, and then I did some more black on top of that copper. So in some places underneath it, you can see a little bit of copper, but it is mostly black. The copper I'm talking about, I actually left on the blade plugs. So the blade plugs are copper, and they'll be in the hilt when this gets shipped to you if you are the one who purchases this lightsaber. I actually use what's called SprayMax 2K, which is kind of like an automotive clear coat that goes on cars. It's really tough stuff. It has paint hardener in it. So it's been sprayed with SprayMax after the paint job, so it's all sealed. It will not rub off on your hands at all. And it feels really great too. It feels very high quality. All right, so without further ado, we'll open it up now. So I will say one thing, one disclaimer. This lightsaber, because I bought it secondhand, when I got it, it did not come with the original main button. I just have a plastic one there in place of that, so it does not have the main button. All right, so let's talk about, we'll go ahead and take it apart. Let me get my screwdrivers. So these hilts originally, the handle section kind of wobbled inside of the upper section here, and there was some rattle even when it was all put together. So I actually drilled and tapped the holes again, and I threaded the handle in with the inner core piece, and I upsized these button heads from an M3 to an M4 size. So they are a tiny bit bigger than they were before, but that's because the handle is now threaded into this whole mechanism here for structural integrity. So there's actually zero wobble. This thing is super solid. So to take it apart now and open it up, we are going to remove that red wire like I showed you earlier. You're actually going to remove your auxiliary switch, which is right here. It's magnetic. You can just grab it and lift it up. It's just a little rubber top, 3D printed bottom with a magnet on the bottom. And you can see the magnet down inside of there. So when you're assembling and you're putting it together, you just drop in your auxiliary switch like that. You can take it out. And then same thing with your power button there, that one. You probably need a pair of tweezers. It's a little bit easier. So go slow, you don't want to scratch your lightsaber, but you're just gonna grab the sides of it, right? And you're just gonna lift it straight up, which is actually hard to do on camera. There, I got it. It is just a plastic button, by the way. It's just plastic, little plastic cap. And then on the bottom there, I have a magnet glued in place because this main button here is magnet as well. So both the power and the auxiliary buttons are magnets. When you're assembling, you can just drop them in place. So now we take apart the hilt. The next step is to remove all 3 of the outer button head screws. Once you've done so, you can just set those aside. So I like to hold the lightsaber upside down by the emitters. You're gonna grab the handle and it just slides up and off, okay? So this bottom portion is all put together. It's pretty solid. It's just a shell. There's no functional purpose of it. It's just a shell that goes over the bottom and holds everything together. You can put that aside. Next, you can take off this portion, which is also a shell. So you just slowly go up and over your Proffieboard off the bottom like that. So here you can see where the red wire is glued in place there. This is just a shell as well. Set that aside in the box, and here's the true core of your lightsaber, okay? So we got, in the emitter bolts here, there's a bolt that goes in through the middle on the side emitters that holds them to this core piece here. I use, let me show you. I use the Loctite, the blue Loctite 242 in those bolts so these emitters will never come loose. I also use it on all 6 of the bolts, this core. There's a big solid core in here. You have 3 bolts in the bottom, 3 bolts in the top that hold this whole section together. So all 6 of those also have Loctite. So the saber will never come loose and those bolts will never rattle, but it kind of assembles and holds everything together. So the little blue wire there has heat shrink on the ends of it and then glued in place, so the blue wire just hangs like that. It's got E6000 holding it in place. This is the chassis, right? 3D printed PLA, HatchBox PLA. It's printed in black, and then I've painted it with copper metallic paint to give it some character. It's got the Imperial, light panel design down the side. And then on top, the wire cover right here, we have the First Order emblem. You can lift this up, which is just a 3D printed piece that kind of works as a wire cover. Oh, look, I got a little wire in there. See it, the little yellow one? Oh, there, I got it. Oh, wait, that's not a wire, that's glue. Oh, it's just a little bit of glue, E6000. Anyway, that works as a wire cover. It also is when removed, you can access your micro USB port with a down angle USB cable. When you're plugging in, make sure you're going in and out directly. Don't plug in and then try to pull straight up. You can accidentally rip that off. I've heard of people doing that. So be gentle when you're plugging in to and removing your cable from your USB port. You don't need to access your SD card. That can be done through the USB port. Once you plug in, give it a few minutes, the SD card contents will pop up on your computer. But the SD card does have on the original configuration file that I used, so if you're wanting to add fonts or change styles or anything like that, it is there if you want to build from it. On the back side here, we have our battery compartment. This is the positive end, should be identifiable because of the red wires that are soldered to the bottom of it. Spring side is negative, that's the negative side of your battery compartment. We can put the battery in there right now, I guess. Actually, before I do, I want to talk about the bottom because it'll be too bright when we put the battery in. The bottom here has your speaker. Inside of there, you have a black 28 millimeter, 3 watt, 8 ohm speaker, premium speaker from the Saber Merchant, okay? Sounds amazing, very clear, good sounding speaker. And then on top of that, we have an 8 pixel accent ring that shines down at the bottom of the lightsaber and illuminates the lower engine. So it shines out of those holes right there, you see, and it illuminates this bottom section here, which looks really cool. So when I put the battery in, you'll see those light up. So when you put the battery in, read your label, make sure you don't get it backwards. There's a positive and a negative sign on there. Make sure your negative goes against the spring side. You just hold the saber by the metal part when it's disassembled. Never handle and hold it by the chassis. This is plastic. It is susceptible to breaking. It can especially snap off right here around the rim if you're not careful. So always handle it by the metal and you'll be totally fine. There are 3 set screws right here, 1, 2, and 3 that hold the chassis in place. But anyway, so I'm gonna hold this chassis all the time, I'm gonna hold this lightsaber all the time by the lightsaber and not by the chassis. But anyway, to put the battery in, I'm just gonna push down. See, I'm just pushing down against that spring with my finger, and then I'm gonna push the positive end in. Pretty simple. You get a boot sound there indicating that the lightsaber now has power, and then you'll see your LED ring on the bottom begins to pulse. It pulses while the saber is retracted, and then once it's fired up, it just matches the main blade style. Kind of that unstable flicker on the bottom. Your switches, right, both have little magnets glued on top of them. Be careful not to rip or shear them off. They're used to have E6000 on them, holding them on. So just be mindful of those. But there's your power right there. And this one's your auxiliary.
I'm sure you are.
Alright, next I'll remove the blade plugs. I'll show you the blade connectors that we have inside, which are pretty much the best on the market right now. The Shtockcustomworx version 3 NPXL connectors. You just loosen up the set screws, which also for the main blade, this originally had a size M2 set screw. It was super tiny and really hard to get to and didn't do a great job at holding the main blade in, so I upsized it to an M3, which is the same as the side blades, so that all three are the same size. Also, I wanted to show you here, these blade plugs are super nice. They are metal, which normally you would not have been able to use them because the NeoPixel connectors have the metal pins that have current running through them, and if they would have, touched the bottom of these, you could have short and fried your electronics. But I wanted you to be able to use them, so I just 3D printed plastic covers and glued those on the bottoms. So the blade plugs are actually usable, and it's safe to use them. I'll give you one more look at the inside of these, kind of a copper color. There we go. I had to get some light shining in there. Alright, so here's your version 3 NPXL connectors from Shtockcustomworx. 16 LEDs on each of them. Super bright, super beautiful. So your emitters even light up and have effects whenever your blades are not in. Alright, so I definitely don't ever play with the lightsaber in this state. It is delicate in this state because it's disassembled. It's strongest and ready for, playing with whenever it's assembled. So, just understand that this is all susceptible to breaking. It's in a delicate state when it's apart, so handle it as such. These are all just disclaimers and warnings to make sure you take care of it and handle it properly. So like I said too about the battery earlier, if you just look and make sure you can turn it, make sure that USB port is facing up, you can put it in the one time, and then now you can plug in with that USB cable, and you never actually need to remove it out of there if you don't want to. But again, when you do so, just take your time and be gentle about it and handle it safely. So we're going to reassemble it now, put in the blades and do a demonstration. I'll show you how to reassemble it. So I like to hold it upside down by the emitters. I start with this upper shell here, the gash portion facing up towards the blue wire. Slide it down carefully, down and over. You'll see here on the Proffieboard is some black stuff. That is called liquid electrical tape. Right here. That's just an added layer of protection I add over some of the joints where I solder wires to for the Proffieboard connections. So it's just kind of an added layer of protection. That way we don't have anything metal just, accidentally touching any of that and causing shorts and then damaging your electronics. But we got this portion on. When you're going on and over, be careful just to go slowly and just lightly wiggle it. You don't want to force it on really hard and shear off those magnets on your switches. So take your time, treat it gently. Next we'll do the handle portion. We're just gently sliding it up and over the chassis, lining up the red wires, and then this gap right here we line up with where the auxiliary switch is. Once you get that assembled, then you just kind of you get right here and you just kind of eyeball, get those holes lined up. And then you're just going to start threading in with your hand your 3 button head screws. But don't tighten them down all the way yet. You want to tighten them down in a certain order to make everything line up just right. So you can just get the threading started with your fingers, screwing those 3 in. Once you get the threading started, stand it upright. Just give it a little wiggle, right? Just to make sure all that's straight. And then you can start with the one closest to your auxiliary switch. Right? Don't tighten it down super tight. Just tighten it down all the way till it stops, then start working your way around the middle one and then the far one right here. And then just give them one little bump just to tighten them up the rest of the way. Then you can tuck in your red wire, which actually came out, so all you gotta do is, I'll probably glue that in. Just tuck it back in the hole, right? Carefully pull the slack through, right? Then you take your slack up here and you tuck it into the clip. Then we can drop in our auxiliary switch, right? Looks like this. Then you just drop it, magnetizes in place. Same thing with the power button, just magnetizes down into that hole. And then you can test them. You test your auxiliary.
I killed Snoke.
Whoops.
I'll kill you.
Alright, so as we could see there, I got ready to make this video and the auxiliary stopped working on me. So I printed a new one. So this one actually is just, this one's just a 3D printed black one, just to kind of match.
I killed Snoke. I know. I killed.
So as we can see, the new 3D printed one works a lot better. That little rubber piece on top was just not working, and it was a different color. So now these are matching, they're both black. I might 3D print this one more time just to make it a little bit bigger, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist and I want all that to look absolutely perfect. So I'll probably print that again and do it just right. But anyway, moving on. So we got the buttons in, we've shown they're magnetic, and now we're gonna go on to the blades. I guess we'll start with the side blades. So these side blades, if you look at the side blades, there are these little swoop cutouts where the unstable stops. That means that's where the bottom is. See how the bottom of that emitter goes? That's how these fit in. So what you'll do is you'll just kind of line those up, okay? No twisting, you just line it up like so, okay? You push straight in against those pins, you hold it in place. I'm trying to do this on camera. Then you tighten down your little set screw. You don't go super tight, just enough to hold the blade in against those pins. You don't want it to pop back out. Do the other side. Promise it's not hard, I'm just trying to do this on camera. Ooh. Hold it in tight against those pins. Tighten down the set screw. And that is what our side blades look like. I'm gonna turn off one of these lights. Let me see, so that we can see this a little bit better. Yeah, there we go. All right, so I'm gonna turn the camera, we're gonna put in the main blade. I'll turn out all the lights and do a full demonstration. All right, so here's the main blade, right? Polycarbonate, thin-walled, 1-inch outer diameter, brand new, made by me with all new stuff. This is your TPU unstable 3D printed sleeve that just kind of slides on the bottom. It's a nice snug fit. Loose enough you can move it around, but it won't fly off whenever you're moving the saber around. So to put the main blade in, again, no twisting. You only insert straight into those pin connectors. Hold pressure against those spring-loaded pins while you tighten down your set screw. That will hold the main blade in. Again, don't go so tight. You don't want to strip out that hole. You just want to get it tight enough to hold the main blade in. Then take your unstable sleeve and just slide it down like so. So I'm gonna go ahead and kill the lights and then do a demonstration for you. So there is your NeoPixel Kylo Ren lightsaber. We got the unstable Rage from FET263's blade style library. flashes, force effects, lockup, lightning block, color change.
Orange, red, dark orange, orange, gold.
So there's
yellow,
the entire
green, yellow.
there's the entire color wheel. You have twist on, twist off, and then like you saw me do, you have thrust on if you want. I'm gonna go back to the red real quick.
Red.
Another cool feature with the Proffieboard is if I'm facing up, I can have simultaneous blade ignition. And if I'm facing down, I can get staggered. So you have both of those at your disposal. Also, the different fonts, if you refer to the paperwork, the different fonts has different timings on those staggered ignitions. Some of them can be quick, some of them can be longer. Anyway, so that is what it looks like. You can hear you got the smooth swing. And the swing sounds. You have stabbing. You got melting.
And now you're going to give it to the First Order.
Sorry, wrong button. Melting. You also have tip drag. Wrong button. How do you do tip drag? I forgot how you do tip drag. Look at the instructions. Maybe it's... Yeah, okay, so all you do is initiate a lockup pointing down. My bad. I haven't messed with a Proffieboard in a minute. You also have you can check your battery level. Let me see.
Enter volume menu.
No, that's the volume menu.
Volume menu end. Battery level.
Battery level.
5%.
You get a voltage. You get a percentage.
Battery level. 95%.
95%. You get a light indicator on your blade. Green is all the way up. It'll travel down and change color from like a green to a green yellow, yellow, orange, and then red at the bottom. It'll be close to getting to where you need to charge it. And I don't know if you can see this, but you can look down in the engine there. And you can see where the lower engine, where's the camera? You can see where the lower engine is illuminated because of the LEDs. Kind of lights up the red wire too. It's a great looking saber, guys. So, thank you for watching. May the force be with you. If you're interested in buying this Kylo Ren lightsaber, just reach out.